This video, let's talk a little bit about Darth Krayt. I'm trying to jump right into things a little bit better, so let's begin. I have mentioned before in my underrated Sith Lords video that I have a love-hate relationship with them, and it's still true, and it has been true ever since I found out Legacy Comics was going to be a thing. My main problems with him don't necessarily outweigh what I like about him. They're kind of equal, but I do think that there is probably, if I'm being honest with myself, a little bit more leanings towards not liking him for specific reasons, but it doesn't overall detract from me enjoying his character as a whole. But like I said, there's just things about him that are a little too messy that kind of detract from me being just a fan of him and the comics in general. I gotta blame for that to some effect because, oh boy, this is probably going to entail a little bit of Legacy Comics reviewing. Jeez. Alright, let's get into it. Born Asherad Head to Sharad Head, which, you know, again, another friggin' Jedi having a kid. You know, for the old order seemingly having the ban on, you know, kids at this point, at least in the order, it seems like a lot of frickin' Jedi were breaking the rules, although I do think that they did try to explain, like, maybe he was retired. But then, I think Ki-Adi-Mundi came and brought him back to do something, or just brought him back. And by this point, there was like really no saying, okay, you can't have kids because oh crap, you had kids. You know, I'm just saying, I think the Jedi would should have kept a tighter leash, created a circle or something of knights dedicated to hunting down and not killing, but at least hunting down, investigating who broke their damn laws so they could be kicked out of the frickin' order. But anyway, moving on. Asherad's father was killed by crazy looking woman. What's her name? Come on, I knew it. Again, I forget names when I do these videos. Aura Singh? Is that her name? I think that's her name. Anyways, the crazy, really pale lady you see at just a little glimpse of at the pod races in episode 1, and she's been in the cartoons recently. She was an ex-Jedi, I think, and then she, you know, is good at hunting them down now that she's a mercenary bounty hunter, or whatever they want to explain her as. Asherad's taken by Ki-Adi-Mundi, becomes his apprentice as a Jedi. Asherad, well, he was living on Tatooine as a Tusken. Him and his father were in the Tusken camp. All Tusken clan members, and they wore the Tusken garb. And it's one of those weird things where I'm not sure if the writers of the comics that brought Asherad and Sharad into existence actually fully knew what Tuskens were, because no one really knows what Tuskens are. No, you know, they look human, but then again, a lot of alien species in Star Wars Legends canon looks human. They look human, but they're not human, and you never know what could be under there. So I think they're just saying he is human, and I mean, there are some parts of the canon that say that the Tuskens sometimes did take in people that they came across in the desert. But, you know, that's not really important. But it's a little odd that they decided to make it Tatooine, because I feel like, once again, like I said, they were trying to make Anakin 1.5. But, you know, he comes from Tatooine, same world. His father's killed. Doesn't bring him over the edge, but, you know, a parent is killed. He's a prodigy, accordingly, because he's very strong in the Force or whatever. You know, like Anakin. He fights in the war like Anakin, but he doesn't give in to impulses, so that's one place where he's different, but we'll discuss how he falls here in a minute. So Asherad trains under Ki-Adi-Mundi, he fights in the war, he defeats Aurra Sing at one point, takes his father's lightsaber that I think she stole. I think. It's been a while since I read his backstory, and again, this is really pathetic. I have all of the Legacy comics actually on me, but I just choose not to read them before I do these damn videos. So then the Clone Wars happen, if you didn't know about them, and he, I believe, is a knight at that point, and what happens? Boy, I'm drawing a blank. Okay, yes. So when Order 66 comes down, and he and Anakin had a moment. He knew Anakin. Asherad said something to Anakin along the lines of, "You'd make a good Tusken," because those two were working together, and it was meant to be a term of endearment, of friendship. But obviously, after what happened to Anakin's mother, he took it the wrong way and attacked him. And again, it's said that Asherad's able to beat him in lightsaber combat, and Anakin is supposedly like up there, one of the top ones at the time. So again, Anakin 1.5 here. By the way, he uses two sabers proficiently. But okay, so he beats him, and then he reveals, because he usually wore his Tusken garb, and he takes off the Tusken garb, showing him that he's human. And Anakin tells him the story of what happened with his mother, and Asherad decides not to tell anyone because he thinks Anakin needs to say it for himself. He's trying to help him in a way, but obviously Anakin is going to go and tell people, even though Asherad suggested it. They do this thing with memory moths, do they call them? Where these weird little, I don't know if they're really moths, but these little glowing things, you put them up to your ear, and they'll tell you the name of a fallen Jedi. And the one Anakin hears, I think, is Os Willem, which is pretty interesting since Os Willem is from Tales of the Jedi, from the Exar Kun era. And Os Willem is also one of the Jedi he was trained under Thawne, and then he was also turned into one of the acolytes of Kun. He tried to kill Thawne with Hissis, and I actually said the story wrong in my Exar Kun talk, but he tried to kill Thawne with Hissis. He is knocked unconscious, and Thawne takes him to heal him. The Hissis are killed, and Krayt was with him. Krayt got slashed by Silvar there, but that's not important. I went on a rant. So the war goes on. Order 66 happens. What happens is Asherad, I think, was away from his platoon, brigade, whatever you want to use, military term, and so he survived. But he came back and they attacked him, and he had to cut down his old, soldier buddies. Although I think the term buddies isn't really a thing, because I'm getting really tired. I'm glad. One other thing I'm glad about, this whole notion that somehow clones and Jedi were just best buddies. Come on, give me a break. Sure, they might have been able to get along with the troopers, but stuff started to go in weird directions when it came here, and I'll start talking about that at some other point. But the point is, he survived, and I believe he didn't return. He didn't return to Coruscant in that time period where they tried to trick Jedi into coming back to Coruscant, Sidious and Vader. I don't exactly understand how he knew Anakin became Vader. That's not clear to me. Sidious is pretty easy because, just Palpatine, but how he knew Vader was Anakin, I'm not sure if that's fully explained. He goes back to Tatooine and becomes a Tusken warlord and takes over his old clan. And he has this crazy notion that he's going to run around uniting all the Tusken clans, attacking people, and take over Tatooine or something crazy like that, and then start a war against the Empire. He's obviously lost his freaking marbles. So, he comes across the moisture farm, the Lars moisture farm, where Luke's being raised. Obi-Wan stops him. He recognizes Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan recognizes him. Tries to get Obi-Wan to join him. Obi-Wan says no, tells him to leave the farm alone. He won't. So he engages him in one-on-one combat. Obi-Wan removes Asherod's arm. Was it his arm? I think it's his arm. God, I forget way too much. Maybe it's not. Maybe he his hand? Something. He removes something. Also, something happened to his eye. I'm not sure if it was in this battle, but something happened to his left eye where he needed a cybernetic replacement. Again, some of the stuff is fuzzy. Some of his earlier life is really fuzzy. Even in Legacy, it's kind of just touched upon here and there. The thing is, Obi-Wan removes his Tusken mask, and amongst the Tusken people, apparently that's taboo. I don't know. And so the Tuskens leave. Oh, we saw your face, now you can't be our leader, dude. Okay, see you later. And he's all angsty, and Obi-Wan leaves him, and Asherod takes off and gets his cybernetic replacements for all the injuries he has. And, apparently all Jedi during this time period becomes a frickin' mercenary. Oh, that's... When you start to have cliches inside a story, inside a universe like Star Wars, like the universe itself has cliches of, oh, another Jedi became a mercenary or bounty hunter, who saw that coming? You need to stop. But that's me. Just like with this new fucking cartoon coming out. Not really a mercenary, but I'm not even gonna go there again. So, he becomes a mercenary, bounty hunter, whatever you want to call him. He hunts a charge down to Korriban. Lands on Korriban, I believe, kills the bounty, or whatever. Yeah, the bounty, whatever. And ends up hearing the call of what we find to be an ancient dark Jedi from the Second Great Schism, the 100-Year Darkness, the Dark Jedi who originally came to Korriban and turned themselves into Sith Lords and started the whole tradition. And her name is Zozan, whatever you want to call her. It doesn't matter, it's just pronunciation. Xoxaan. And she looks freaky. Her holocron, he finds it and he starts to learn under her to get his revenge on both Palpatine and Vader. And then, weirdly enough, he's in this tomb on Korriban for so long that he comes out, and so many years have passed, he doesn't even realize that the rebellion has already beaten them over Endor, and so he's denied his revenge. And I would slap myself at that point, but then he decides to go into the unknown regions for wandering, getting back in touch with himself. I don't know what he was exactly doing in the unknown regions. He was just kind of meandering. But what happens is that he comes into contact with the good old friends of ours, Yuuzhan Vong. They capture him. Vergery, some people call her. I used to call her Vergeer, which is probably wrong. Virgery. Again, I don't care what you want to call her. The bird Jedi that stayed with the Yuuzhan Vong. The Fosh. She's Fosh. She, like she does later with Jason, tries to see if Asherod is capable or willing to be taught her own point of view. Half of the Star Wars fans like to say her point of view is really Sith-oriented. The other half like to say that it was kind of more not really Sith, not really Jedi, kind of in the middle. I think it was more Sith, frankly, because some of the stuff that she wanted them to do, and then later on they kind of retconned in that she was working with Lumia. She's Sith, okay? She's maybe not Sith in name, maybe not Sith in ideology, but by practice, she's at least Dark Jedi and going on to Sith teachings. He comes to see through tortures a vision of the future that he wants to create, where the Sith rule the galaxy and bring peace and order to a galaxy that is in chaos and yada yada yada. Ironic considering the chaos in the galaxy is pretty much wholly brought about by the collapse of the Empire, which sources in the canon have said if the Empire was the one fighting the Yuzhong Vong, they would have had a lot better time. They would have had a bigger force, a bigger army, bigger navy, cohesion, because they're all scared of Vader and the Emperor. But so he basically just goes full evil. He envisions his dream of the one Sith Order, but Vergery comes to see that he is going in a direction she doesn't want. She decides to go with Jason Solo. She doesn't know he's going to become Caedus, but she turns into Caedus through her teachings. Asherad escapes his Embrace of Pain, which is a ship that the Yuzhong Vong use to torture people. They replace his mechanical eye with the eye of one of their weird creatures, just for the fuck of it. They replace, if he lost an arm or hand, which I think he did, but I could be wrong. They did replace it with an animal of theirs arm, or they would, if I'm wrong. They would have done that because they already did to his freaking eye. But he escapes, I believe, by unleashing a lot of lightning, because the one force power the Yuzhong Vong can't fight against is indirect force abilities, and lightning is the best indirect one. Well, that, and maybe if Exar Kun was still around with his dark side force blast, which is basically a beam of energy that just rips into people, that could have worked, but as we are, lightning. So he escapes, and he goes back to Korriban, and he's starting to turn into this beastly figure with all these Vong experiments done on him. And what are those things? The seed things? I forgot what they're called, but they implanted him with those, and they're starting to grow out of him. He looks really gross at this point. That armor, I guess the armor forms out of that, which I guess he's turning into it. I always figured he could take the armor off, like he does with his helmet, because how did that grow? Did he break that off? That's not fully clear. And it also begs the question once again, does he go to the bathroom? But whatever, it's Star Wars and it's comics, what do you want? Okay, so he builds the one Sith Order on Korriban, watches the galaxy fall into chaos with the Second Galactic Civil War, Jason going into Caedus. He thinks Caedus is beneath him in terms of Sith, but likes the fact that he distracts the Federation and everyone away from him on Korriban, which isn't really a necessary distraction since Korriban is so imbued with dark side energies over the thousands of years that Sith have been going there, kicked off, coming back, getting kicked off, coming back. It's just an inherently dark world. He didn't really need to worry about much, but whatever, got distracted. But then he comes into contact with Luke when the Abeloth thing happens with the Lost Tribe of the Sith, because I think they said he takes on the name Darth Krayt after he escapes, because Krayt dragons are creatures on his homeworld of Tatooine, and he wanted to. It just sounded cool to him. I don't know, Darth Krayt. It sounds like I'm saying Darth Krayt, as in he's the Darth box, but Darth Krayt. So then he had a vision of, I think, Abeloth, and I think he knew that Abeloth would be something he did not want. So he comes to Coruscant to fight Abeloth with Luke. He says he's from the Lost Tribe of the Sith. Luke doesn't believe him because Lost Tribe, unlike many Sith orders, which is stupid too, have this whole thing about physical beauty, that if you're not attractive, you're ostracized. Which, if they had thought that with Palpatine, they would have been destroyed. Because plenty of Sith have been have grown even more disgusting because of their constant dark side degradation. But nonetheless, they both fight Abeloth. They defeat her. He leaves. Luke, oddly enough, is kind of like, oh, I don't believe he's with the Lost Tribe, but oh, I guess I'll worry about it when it comes along. Really, Luke? You're just gonna let a guy who displayed enough power to help you bring down Abeloth, who is a broken character as well? You're just gonna let him? You're just gonna let him go? Really? Okay, I guess you're done with this. I guess you're really done with the way things have been going lately. So he returns to Korriban, obviously, and he's not seen again until we get into the Legacy comics. He instigates. Oh boy, he kind of pushes. Like, the Sith kind of once more joined the body of the Empire, which is still mostly a state in the northern regions of the galaxy. And what happens is that the Sith have some influence with the Empire under the Fel Dynasty. Jesus. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so he pushes the then Emperor of the Fel Dynasty of the Empire, Rowan Fel, the old idiot with the same hair as his ancestor. Ooh, classy. He has one white strip in his hair. He pushes him to start a war out of nowhere with the Galactic Federation of Free Alliances, GFFA, the Federation, whatever. They go to war, and they apparently blitz the GFFA, because they take Coruscant, they take planets after planets after planets. They basically take the whole galaxy except for a little remnant in, I think, the eastern part of the galaxy. Like near Hut Space? Yeah, I think so. There's a map online somewhere. I'll probably put it up as I'm talking. But then the One Sith Order instigates a coup. They go into the conference room, whatever it is, where the Emperor is supposed to be talking with all of his Moffs. They kill the man on the throne. The man on the throne is actually a double. How'd you like to have that job? And the real Emperor, I think, is already on Bastion, which is their safe haven world up in the northern area still. But still, Krayt makes all the Moffs swear loyalty to him, and he becomes the new Galactic Emperor, the first Sith Galactic Emperor since Sidious. And I mean, like, in the sense that he actually had a whole galaxy to reign over, because you could say Karnor Jax was a Galactic Emperor. You could say, what was that idiot, that sniveling Carvinus, or whatever, that fat weirdo who's also killed by Kir Kanos, or yeah, whatever. I don't remember exactly how the moron died. You could say he was a Galactic Emperor. You could say, by technicality, Darth Krayt was a Galactic Emperor. You could say, by technicality, Sate Pestage was an emperor. You could say, by great technicality, if you really want to stretch the imagination, Yasan Isard was empress. But this is the first real galactic emperor since Sidious, or Palpatine, whatever you want to call him. And he's a Sith, so that's the first real Sith emperor too. Karnor, Jax, and Cadus being, again, stretched exceptions if you want to go there. So then, the Sith Imperial War begins, which is literally this massive swath of the galaxy who have sworn loyalty to the One Sith and the Sith Emperor. basically fight Rowan Fell's Empire in Exile loyalist faction in the north, and also against the GFFA, which is still a threat over wherever they are. Krayt has been putting himself in intervening hibernation to extend his life, because he's way over 100 years at this point. He is really old. I don't even know how old he is, but I know that, he's a grown man by the time the Clone Wars is still going on, then another 20 years, and then 130 something years. So, at least 150 years old plus. He's going to be putting himself in hibernation, and he's had a dynasty of loyal regents, Warlock, whatever you want to call those. That terrible name they gave him. I call him Warlock. Warlock the First, Warlock the Second, and Warlock the Third. Third is the one who's his regent right now. He's a snake in the grass. So he's looking for a way to get the Yuuzhan Vong seeds, whatever they are, out of him, because they're sapping away his life. And so he might even turn into some weird abomination. We learn through weird means later. And so he learns that the current Skywalker, Cade Skywalker, the joke of the Skywalker dynasty, and I'll say why in a little while. Cade has this weird ability where he can basically almost go full dark side on you, but just barely touch the threshold and pull people back from the brink when they really should die, which comes to bite him in the ass a couple times because he can't let people go. No, he can't let people go, just like his ancestor Anakin. Isn't that cool? No, it's not. It's a rehash. So he looks for him. He sends out his hand. One of his hands, mainly, Darth Talon. Oh, God. Darth Talon. When you need to fap to Star Wars, just put Darth Talon into Google search images with safe search off. My God, they just created her for that. She has no personality other than, I serve my master with utter and complete loyalty. That's it. Oh, and she has no quirks about her. She's utterly bland. No emotion, except maybe anger from time to time. Nothing. God, I don't even want to. Fuck. Jeez. She goes after him. At one point, it captures him. He doesn't ever do anything. Cade and his little crew come across. What's her name? Celeste Morn. And I'm not going to talk about her backstory right now because I'd be here way too long. Just look up Celeste Morn if you're really interested. At some point, I'll probably get to her. Needs to say she's a Jedi that has been alive since right during the Mandalorian Wars, and she was in a hibernated state. She has the Mur Talisman, and basically the Sith Lord from Zhozhan's time, Karnus Mur, spirit is attached to the Mur Talisman, so he's attached to her, and it doesn't come off unless it willingly decides to come off and attach to someone else. Going to that, Mur wants to basically do what all Sith do, take over the galaxy and rule. So he contacts Krayt with Celeste kind of wanted to do it too, but she's slowly starting to really turn into just a crazy woman. And they set up a trap for Krayt and Malady, Darth Malady, Malady, yeah, I think that's how you say it. And Wirelock's there as well, and I think one of the could be mistaken, on Hadabaddon, I think the planet is. And with the promise of Mur healing Krayt. But he has to give something? I can't honestly remember what the deal, why Krayt went there, other than to get healed. There was some sort of deal. I think Mur wanted to get off the world, or no, he had a ship. I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember. But there was a deal. He would heal Krayt. Krayt would give him something. They turned on him, but not before Mur began the whole process of healing him. But it was still just a trick. And they attacked. Especially since Mur has Rakghouls with him. I'm pretty sure people know what Rakghouls are. Sith spawn. Turns a couple Sith and troopers into Rakghoul. Krayt is beaten, I believe, by being electrocuted, or was he even stabbed? I don't know. He got knocked off this cliff, fell, somehow protected himself with the Force, and then Wirelock came across him, tried to kill him, wanted to take over because he saw that. I'll go more in depth in a minute. Basically, he wanted to kill Krayt because he saw Krayt was going in this weird direction that would basically destroy his own dream, and he wanted to kind of keep it where it was and not take it down this direction. So Krayt is believed dead by most because Wirelock lies. He becomes leader of the Empire, basically as the regent. And Krayt's body is put on Korriban, like this suspended animation. He somehow heals himself because he's not really dead, or he is dead and comes back to life. It's not completely and wholly clear, because apparently somehow by feeling what Mur was doing to his body, he somehow learned the technique. If Mur could just heal himself like this, why did he need to attach his soul to the talisman? Did someone find a way to destroy his body? I don't know. Mur is also defeated because he tried to attach himself to Cade, and then he used the Shatterpoint ability where you can use the Force to widen even the most infinitesimally small crack anywhere until it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it just blew up. That also killed Celeste Warren, and she turned to dust, literally. So Talon and Darth Nihil, whatever, because Nihilus was already taken, comes and find that Krayt is still alive. He looks like a freaking walking corpse. He looks a lot better in the next issue set, wearing this new set of armor. The old armor is off of him. Again, no. See, it shows his armor floating, meaning he can get out of it. So, first of all, if you weren't being affected by the armor, why is it that you turn into the monster that the armor basically represents? Doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. He looks better. Apparently, he can now keep himself continuously young because of Mur. I don't know. And he goes back to Coruscant. He activates these Sith troopers who are apparently programmed at birth, kinda, to be loyal to him. They're strong in the Force and utterly and completely loyal. They wear these ridiculous outfits too that I think inspired the Old Republic. He goes to Coruscant, he fights Wirelock. Whoever wins gets the Empire. Basically, he defeats Wirelock, he takes back control of the Empire. The Empire is kind of falling apart in terms of people are no longer listening to the Empire in certain regions. Like the Hapans haven't even responded to them. The Chiss have communication with them, but they aren't really that involved. She's getting slighted by the Hapans. Jeez. Well, some people would say, "Oh, the Hapans actually have a massive navy, massive." The Hapans are not that impressive when you get down to it, but whatever. But then there's the Cade and some Jedi and his crew decide to go take down Krayt. and put the Fells basically back in charge of the Empire and get this war over with, get everyone back to working together. Under, what was her name? Mariasa? Her name is hard for me to say for some reason. The daughter of Rowan Fell. Rowan Fell can use the Force, which is really ridiculous. He fell to the dark side. He has these things called Imperial Knights. So again, really broken. Not a good idea. Imperial Knights, who are basically Jedi-esque, but they only serve the Empire. Which is really like... Are you Jedi stupid? You're allowing the Imperials to set up this order of knights. People who use the Force, who can use lightsabers, who can fight you toe-to-toe. They're just not Sith, but you know that they're going to be, if not evil and using dark side, using enough abilities that could take you down. It's ridiculous. So the Imperial Knights have to kill him if he ever fell to the dark side. Ooh, I'm glad that's a clause in your laws. And they make his daughter, Mariasa, I think her name is, Empress. She takes command. She's obviously a lot more calm and a lot more whatever you want to say. They go and fight Krayt. Cade fights Krayt on Coruscant. He beats him. And he takes Krayt on a ship into or towards Coruscant's sun, because Krayt is either healing himself or transferring his essence into Cade to try and live on. But Cade has the intention of killing them both by sending them both into the sun, because he's trying to, I guess maybe the writers realized Cade was a fucking douchebag that no one was really liking at this point, so they wanted to redeem his ass. He sees a vision of Luke, and obviously his ancestor telling him, no, don't worry, you're not going to be taken over by Krayt. What does your heart tell you? So he takes off in a pod, in an escape ship, whatever. He burns Krayt's body by sending it into Coruscant's sun. He's picked up by Delia Blue, his on-again, off-again booty call, which apparently they actually come to realize they love each other. Woo! So, that's worked out. Krayt dies. The One Sith Order goes into hiding. I guess they try to build up Nihil as being some sort of real, second coming of Sidious, where he wants to subtly take over planetary governments, subtly take over political positions, institutions, to make the One Sith return once again, destroy a government from within type thing. They're just at that point where copying Palpatine. I'm glad Legacy ended there, and I'm glad that they won't get any sequels, because, oh my god, I was sick of that comic by the time it got over with. Good drawing, good artwork aside, the story got really bull after a while. Okay. Once again, that was an overly long discussion on the frickin' dude's life, and I'm sorry that I went on that long. Oh boy, what do I even say now? Okay, Krayt disappoints me a lot, because again, he's like Darth Vader, Anakin 1.5. Not a lot is different about him except that he's Emperor. What is interesting about him is his order, his ideas, and his vision. Not necessarily his abilities, not necessarily his attitude, but his philosophical ideas and teachings in the Sith. Because the One Sith Order, I believe, I can't remember exactly who said it, but someone who has a lot more articulation when it comes to Star Wars videos, said something along the lines that Darth Krayt's vision of the One Sith was to make every single living person in the galaxy a Sith, and by that token, by that notion, you can come to see that eventually it would lead to the utter destruction of the galaxy by means of constant bickering, constant fighting, constant destruction, even with him as a centralized leader. But with him as a centralized leader, if you want to go that route, he would have become something that the galaxy would not be able to operate without. So if he would have died, if he would have fell, the whole galaxy would have ripped itself into utter, complete shreds, and it would have made Vidiot jealous. The Sith Emperor from the Old Republic. So in a way, Ryralock was probably the better choice to have as a leader, because he wanted to keep things a little more streamlined in terms of what the Sith were and what the One Sith Order was, where there were just lots of them, basically. There were lots of them. They all got themselves body painted in that Darth Maul Sith tattoo type thing, which they only did because Darth Maul was cool looking. And apparently a lot of people like Talon for it, so whatever. She was naturally red though, so it made things easier. Krayt, I don't believe they go into detail exactly what lightsaber abilities he has, but needless to say, he's a good fighter if he could disarm Anakin Skywalker in a duel. He obviously knows some Jarkai if he can use two sabers proficiently. He uses one a lot though, he doesn't really go all out two a lot. He does it good enough, but he does one saber a lot. And I don't know, it kinda, I could look it up, but I think that's wasted at this point. I'm sure anyone can look up Krayt after this and go, what was his saber combat? Oh, here it is. If I would have to guess, I would guess maybe Gemso, maybe, I don't know, Gemso, or I have no clue. If you hear a weird noise, it's because my cat is freaking scratching. Hey! Freaking cat was scratching at the chair. Sorry about that. It probably sounds terrible. But his force abilities are take him or leave him. I mean, really, he doesn't do much that shows he has strong abilities in the force. Of what he does seem like he has some ability, some power. I mean, he does destroy a whole Vong ship with lightning. He does keep himself alive, though mostly through hibernation. He does use lightning seemingly proficiently. He's a good duelist, even though, I mean, he got beat by Cade, and Cade isn't exactly an experienced duelist. So, I don't know. That just, there's not a lot known about he's kind of like Sadao, except even Sadao had a little bit more, a little bit more of his force power is shown in the fact that he's not shown fighting a lot, and when he is shown fighting, he's shown to be good, but it's generalized and not really looked into a lot. And when he's shown using the Force, it's again good, but you're not shown anything that shows great feats beyond that he knows some really basic stuff that he can use to his own benefit fairly well. The One Sith Order, again, the extension of his own will, the extension of himself as the very center of the universe, is an interesting concept. They're kind of made into a whole army of their own, but what's the point of having troopers, stormtroopers, and all those types around if you're just going to have a whole army of Sith and nothing but Sith? Jeez. The point in the comics where he talked to three holocrons of the old Sith Lords, there was Darth and Deddu, whatever you want to call him, Andadu. Darth Bane, which I was like, Bane? Really? He's still in the Orbalisks, which that doesn't make any sense because by the time he gets his holocron to actually work, I don't think he's wearing the Orbalisk armor anymore. I don't think that at that point they knew his Orbalisk armor would be taken off or something. I don't know. Maybe they just thought it looked cool. And then Darth Nihilus, which I was like, oh, Nihilus? Really? Oh, okay. If you want to bring Nihilus, that's fine by me. Krayt talks to them. Nihilus says something to him, but no one understands. He doesn't understand what Nihilus is saying. Bane and Adendu kind of seem like maybe they do, but they refuse to say what he said because he's talking to them because he wants to know how to get out of his armor at that point and stay alive like they did. Nihilus, apparently, according to Krayt, and I guess this was made canon, was able to transfer what he was, what made him alive, into his clothing. Because apparently what they're trying to suggest is Nihilus was like a walking massive shadow, just holding himself together. Kind of like just a hollow man type thing. So he transferred his spirit basically into his mask and his robes and his clothing. Maybe Krayt wanted to do that as well. Nihilus said something he couldn't understand, and Bane mocked him. And Dendu, although I think people are saying Endendu came before Bane, which is really weird how he kind of supported Bane in this then, called him a pretender or whatever. Maybe Endendu's holocron is just insane. But Bane, I like how he mocked Krayt, because obviously Krayt, but the thing about holocrons is that they can learn, they can understand things, which is weird. So Bane knew about the one Sith and its styles and its order. And so Bane mocks Krayt for his own afflictions and what he's done to the Sith, which I think in Bane's own idea would be just a re-bastardization of the Order. Because if you think about it, the Brotherhood of Darkness is similar in a lot of ways to the one Sith, in that the Brotherhood of Darkness has limitless membership, limitless armies essentially of Sith, although they're more like Dark Jedi, but Sith. A central figurehead who's kind of like the Dark Lord, but like a Grand Master at that. Krayt was more the Dark Lord. Khan came off more as trying to make the Lords feel more equal, so he kind of came off as more like a Grand Master, but he did consider himself the Dark Lord of the Sith. So he was like the pinnacle. Krayt kind of mirrored that, where he tried to keep things equal to in the one Sith Order, but in a way where just everything was beneath him once again. There wasn't any sort of Sith council, but somehow he made them all just obedient to him, and those that weren't were beaten back. And then even then, when he fought against Wirelock for the Empire back, Darth Strife kind of just watched on and was like, yeah, whoever wins, I'll join back up with him. So there is dissent still. They're not all wholly loyal to you, but a good majority of them are, admittedly. So Bane's holocron seeing a rebastardization of his order, but to be fair, his order did also fall apart. Probably would piss him off, though. And then Adendu uses his magic to turn him into that weird creature with his armor, which again doesn't make sense. If you can get out of your armor, why are you wearing it? If it's bad for you. I know under that armor his skin looks really bad, and he has still those things growing out of him. But, again, if you get out of your armor, guy, just get out of the armor. Worry about the stuff on your body, in your body. What else? His backstory, while long and complicated, again, feels a lot like Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker 1.5. I'm repeating myself kind of on this, but he comes from the same planet. He has a similar-esque type fall. Not really with the romance, though, but he is... he's betrayed. He loses a lot of things. He seeks revenge. In the fall, there's not a whole lot of similarity, but there's some. And then he goes to one-up Vader in becoming an emperor of his own order, ruling the galaxy and learning a way to heal himself, like Vader obviously would want to, and find a pathway to immortality. It's really ridiculous, honestly. So then, what else is there to talk about? Sorry, I'm having these long pauses. I'm really just trying to. There's a lot about him that's interesting, but there's a lot about him that's really bland. Really kind of like, I see you're trying to one-up someone here. I see you're trying to one-up someone here. And it kind of makes me not like the character, especially since a lot of the things he does are kind of like, okay, that's cool. He failed. Alright, he's coming back. Alright, that's cool. Alright, he failed again. There's a lot of failed endeavors, a lot of cool ideas, but they have piss-poor payoff, so it makes you recognize all the flaws and all the ways he can connect back to other Sith Lords you'd much rather hear about, because they at least had a more interesting and successful story than this guy did. The comics themselves, Legacy, have a lot of things wrong with them, in my opinion. Strictly in my opinion. Like, okay, there's weird dialogue choices, like they're trying to be more like, I guess, natural in their dialogue, but oh my god, did it not come off that way. There's one comic issue dedicated to these stormtroopers on a battlefield when this Quarren Sith Lord, those are the ones with the squid species, a Quarren walks by and I think is like bumped into by a trooper. The trooper commander saves his life by going off on him and is like, don't worry about it, that was just to get him to go away. But in that moment where he's fake mad at him, yelling at him, he calls him a noob. He calls him a newbie, a noob. I'm like, am I reading this? Is this what you think dialogue is? Get out of the way, noob. Oh, you newbie. Don't you know this is the Imperial Stormtrooper? Really? Since when did Stormtroopers actually have a commander that was this kind of brisk and bare bones and a bad fit? Whatever. Whatever. The good artistry of these comic series is not contested by myself. However, I'd like to know that there are several scenes, several depictions, several facial feature decisions that I don't like, especially since a lot of the lines on the face are very much focused on. And you know, when you look at a human face in real life, you don't necessarily see that many facial lines in that detail. And I think sometimes that gets lost on artists who want to be as good and as, you know, realistic as they possibly can, but sometimes it comes off as being, that is way too detailed, my friend. Cade, oh my god, he is the white trash of the Skywalker family. He does drugs, he sleeps around, oh, he's a dick and douchebag, he's a smuggling pirate asshole who doesn't want any relationship with his family's history. Understandable considering you're related to Darth Vader, but also kind of a dick thing since your dad died saving you as a Jedi. Your ancestor is Luke Skywalker, for pity's sake. Ben Skywalker, who was decent for the time that we had with him. And, you know, calm down, dude. But, and then the whole thing with Delia Blue, this whole flirty, ugh, God, I didn't enjoy that at all. His thing with Rey, Aslan Rey, well, not Rey, not the male type of Rey. One funny thing about the Legacy comics, they had a misprint one time where they showed him getting out of bed, obviously from doing the dirty deed, and it was supposed to be Delia Blue, who's a Zeltron, by the way, so I guess that's added bonus. But they accidentally made it Mariasa Fell. Now, the implication of the latest stuff that came out in the Legacy or the Legends continuity was that Jaina and Jagged, whatever, Fell, got married. So the Fell dynasty has to be in some way descended of Jagged Fell and Jaina Solo, because Jagged Fell didn't have a kid with anyone else. So the implication of that, to be fair, mistaken choice of artistry made it seem like Cade was basically having relations with a distant cousin. Oh man. I'm glad that they showed at the end of that comic, they were like, oh, we made a mistake here. This is supposed to be Delia Blue, and we're sorry about that. Then, what else is there to talk about? Warlock was interesting. A little bland, though, still. Yeah, although, again, he had a much better vision for what the Sith should be as compared to his master. Talon, nothing but fat material. No personality, no particular strengths in one area or another, other than she can track and hunt down Jedi or whoever her master says to go after. But fat material. I have not a lot of things good to say about Talon. Especially in the shit that they have her wearing, which is basically just a little strap and a little other couple straps with a couple of flaps hanging down. Strife, not a lot to say about Strife. Darth Nihilus. A lot of people like Darth Nihilus, but he's a little useless. He's a Nagai, but that's interesting, but not much else to say about Nihilus. Other than they tried to obviously show he was some sort of evil genius underneath all of that weirdness. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy him, and I'm glad that he's not going to have any new stories told about him. And if he is, God help me. Malady, utterly nothing to say about Malady. Again, kind of bland. She can work all these weird Sith alchemies to make poisons, to make weapons, attack people with afflictions, but it doesn't really go anywhere at the end of the day, and she's captured and kind of goes insane because Kate Skywalker showed her her own fears in her mind. I should have mentioned that Krayt brought about the third Great Jedi Purge through several means. For one thing, the Yuuzhan Vong made a little comeback into the galaxy, and the Jedi supported them because they were going to seed worlds that they had destroyed before, and basically bring plant life, and through plant life, bring life back to the planets that they had helped destroy. Some of them trying to make amends, I guess. What happened though was that Malady had somehow twerked. Oh my god! I can't believe I said that. I apologize for that image. She tweaked, is what I meant to say. Stop it, my cat. She tweaked with the Vong forming that they were trying to do, and made it so that these grotesque, bony things started to sprout instead of plants that they wanted to use, which is very similar to what they did when they were Vong formed the worlds they were trying to conquer. So then suddenly the whole galaxy went crazy and up against them. And I think this kind of led to some of the political hoo-ha that went on with how the war got started. And after the war got started, the Jedi didn't seem to get involved again. So then the Empire and the ones that descended onto their base at Ossus once again, and just slaughtered most of them. But unlike the first and second, this third Great Purge was carried out very poorly because a lot of them survived. There was even one Jedi Master from the frickin' Clone Wars that was still alive somewhere, just doing fine. So they failed in that respect. Third Great Purge, not as interesting as the first or the second, and both of them are immensely interesting if you get into the Legends background of how things went. Boy. No, I don't want to talk about that. I was going to talk about Morn, but I will save that for another time. The whole Rakghoul stuff goes back to KOTOR. The revival of a big Sith threat was kind of interesting, but, at the end of the day, it didn't really do much. It didn't accomplish much. And in the way of Krayt, it feels like a whole lot of wasted potential. And I've come across forums on the internet, they're pretty old, like when Legacy was kind of a new thing. And it was like, do you think Krayt could beat Bane? Or do you think Krayt could beat Exar Kun? Do you think Krayt could beat Palpatine? So much hate for Krayt. They all call him Darth Fail Krayt, Darth Fail, things like that. So obviously there's a lot of animosity for him. I'm showing him a lot more respect than I think a lot of people would be willing to give to him, because I do think some of the concepts around him are interesting. Some of the things they wanted to do with him were interesting. Some of the things they tried to do but failed, to be fair, were interesting. Where Legacy was going, I think, was trying to revive this whole Star Wars thing, because at that point it was becoming clear to some people that Star Wars canon at that point was starting to hit this wall, and stories were starting to really fade because just ideas were becoming, the whole concepts and ideas were becoming bankrupt at that point. And what was it? Fate of the Jedi or whatever, the series having to deal with the Lost Tribe and Abeloth, that came out, pissed a lot of people off, because Some people, a lot of people, didn't want to go into the whole. There's a faction of Star Wars fans who like the scientific aspect of the Force while still maintaining that the Force is some sort of higher entity that isn't fully understood in the living Force, like Qui-Gon Jinn believed. And then there are those who kind of like just pure mysticism, don't want to know anything about midi-chlorians, don't mention midi-chlorians, that isn't a thing. I kind of side with the science field, but I understand where people come in the mystic field. The problem with the mystic field is that there are a lot of fans out there who even like the mystic field of the Force, who saw this idea and notion of Force gods like the Ones, the Father, the Daughter, the Son, and Abeloth, you know, the Mother, if you want to call her that, although she called herself that, with disdain, because they're like, why are there gods when the Force, in and of itself, religious or not, let's not even get into that debate, but religious or not, the Force is supposed to be this energy that flows through everything that's alive and helps it live and gives those that can feel it and sense it and have the power to use it, it gives them power to use it, whether it be for good or evil. Is kind of like the idea of, do you take your own free will and go good, or do you take your own free will and do bad? And you know what, if you use the dark side, who says you have to be bad? Who says if you use the light you have to be good? So the Force technically is like the overarching god of the Star Wars universe. So when you bring in these other like deities, it makes people just slap themselves like, oh, why is this a thing? And I'm one of those people, and I've known plenty of other people who say it's weird. So Krayt and this whole one Sith deal was kind of refreshing, even though that stuff kind of came a little bit after, but it was a little bit during. This was refreshing because it kind of felt more like it was getting back into what Star Wars kind of was, where you have a hero who isn't really a hero. He kind of seems like he wants to do good, but Cade is the white trash of the Skywalker family. Oh, God, I hate him. I know plenty of people who hate Cade more than they hate Krayt, and that's an accomplishment. He looks like a douchebag, too, with that facial hair and the messy blonde hair and that stance they have him in a lot of times. But Legacy was trying, I'll at least say that. Legacy tried. I'm not going to say it failed. I'm going to say that it let me down. Krayt let me down. I'm not going to say he failed. I say he's underrated. In fact, in my underrated Sith Lord video. But he underwhelmed me. He failed. No, he didn't fail. He underwhelmed me. He disappointed me. A lot of things about Legacy disappointed me. A lot of things about Asherad Het, Darth Krayt, whatever you want to call him, disappointed me. If they had worked out his character, fleshed it out a bit more, I would have really liked him. But they didn't. Like, I don't think Darth Krayt would have been able to defeat, for instance, Exar Kun. I don't think he would have been able to... he wouldn't have been able to defeat Palpatine. I don't know about that. I don't even know if that's even a question. He wouldn't have been able to defeat... No, he wouldn't have been able to defeat Darth Vader. I was going to say maybe they would have had a long fight, I think. But at the end of the day, I think Vader still would have pulled out the win at the end for several underlying reasons. But I'm not going to get into that whole versus thing that's going on, because I am in no way an expert on it. And if I start to go there, then people would call me out on my definitions on what makes someone a loser and what makes someone a winner. Needs to say, I think Darth Vader beat Darth Krayt. I don't think Krayt could have beat Bane on any stretch of the imagination. Krayt could have beat the Sith Emperor? Maybe. Could Krayt have beaten Cadus? Probably. I'm not that impressed with Jason Solo's fighting abilities as they're described. Could he have defeated, like, Sadao? Probably. Probably could have beaten Sadao. But, you know, this video's dragged on for a whole freaking hour. Once again, didn't mean to be this long, but he's one of the more longer talked about, or capable of talking about, Sith Lords. I think I'll end it here. Where would I rank if I had that weird ranking order between 1 and 5? 1 being a terrible character, a terrible Sith Lord. 5 being just a pinnacle of what a Sith is and how cool they are, and, you know, what you want to... the more you want to learn about him. I give him a 2.5. He's just below average to me. And that's my opinion. Say what your opinion is. You know, I now have 3 subscribers. That made my day. So, if you guys are listening and you listen here to the end, I'd appreciate you leave a comment, maybe. Tell me what you think. To anybody who listens and watches my stuff, tell me what you think. Tell me what you thought. Tell me what your opinion is. I don't care if you leave a like or dislike, but I would like to hear your opinions. Something like that. Yeah. So, thanks for watching, listening, and I'll see you at the next video. And I'm sorry this one's kind of disjointed. I'm doing this against spur of the moment and stuff like that. But anyway, see ya.